Welcome to the Stacked with Stats podcast. I'm Pam Maldonado, joined by my girl Kelly Stewart. I got chocolate in my mouth. I'm Kelly in Vegas. Chocolate for breakfast. This is what we are doing.
Pam in Vegas, Kelly in Phoenix. This is how it is.
Kelly in Phoenix, Pam in Vegas, bringing you all the analytics behind the NFL contest bets. Kelly, my girl, I saw you drinking coffee right now. I'm like double fisting coffee right now.
Wow. Well, I should be double fisting whiskey right now because I can't believe you didn't even realize the monstrosity of a shirt that I had to wear. I lost a bet. I lost a bet to my good friend Steven that you met at the Texas game last year. K-State did not beat them. And I told him, he said, well, what do you want the side bet to be? I said, I kind of like Texas if Quinn Ewers plays a great game. Next thing I know, there's a freaking Texas t-shirt in my mailbox. So I'm trying to make good on a little side bet. But after this, I'll be shipping this one off to Austin for Pam to wear to the gym.
I definitely noticed, but I wasn't going to say anything until you brought it up because I am just soaking it in. That is such a great color on you. I've got to be honest.
Actually, I hate this color on me. I'm like the same color. We got a spray tan last night for the stupid wedding that I'm going to. And now I match this shirt. We're both orange. It's great. Not a great color on me. The hot pink looks great on you though.
But let's just say hook 'em horns. Let me hear it one time.
Fuck off. This was not part of the side bet.
Well, Kelly is in Phoenix. I am in Vegas, and we're here to talk about week 11 of the NFL. 27, 22, and 1 on the season. You know what? Fuck it. Last week, just whatever. Like, I sent you a text. Both of our best bets are 6 and 4, so overall we're 12 and 8. But I sent you a text, and your response was, "We keep pushing." And I just love that mentality because, like, you know what? This is part of the wave, and you ride it, and it has been a bumpy one this season. But it is not how you start. It is not what happens in the middle. It is how you finish. So we still got plenty of football left. I actually really love this week's card. Like, when the lines came out on Wednesday, I turned to my dude and I was like, "Oh my God, I love every game. We're going 5-0. We're going to go 10-0 in the 2 cards. I'm so excited." And then you're like, I don't know. I don't like any. It's the same old.
I think that's pretty standard operating procedure for me in the NFL. There's not a lot that I love. You know, I get here last night, I have to go to the like wedding meet and greet thing. And everybody's like, what are you playing? What are you playing for Thursday Night Football? And I'm like, I'm not. Like, I guess I've taught myself to be a lot more disciplined in the NFL. And that means if there's any reason why I don't like a bet, I'm easily just like, nah, never mind. Versus college football, I've taken a little bit of that, but I've started to realize this year in college football, it's kind of hurt me almost. Like, I'd rather release 11 plays in college football, you know, on a like 50 team card and play 2 games on a Sunday. It's just a sport that I'm so much better at. Also, I think that the parity from top to bottom is so much greater in college football than it is in NFL. It's truly any given Sunday. And last week we saw it was any given Monday. I took 11 with the commies. I didn't think they were going to go into Philadelphia and win the game outright. Pam, do you think? Oh, thanks. Well, you know what? And that makes you a bad friend for not texting me and be like, hey, you know what? I actually think the commies can win this game. See, this is exactly the type of people that deal with that. It's always that Monday morning quarterback. I'm in a group chat with all of these gamblers, and Pam would be in it if she had an iPhone. But since she doesn't, I haven't invited her to it yet. But it is funny because it's always that next morning. I had a couple of guy friends that took Packers last night in Survivor. And I made a side joke because I also went out with Packers when they were in London as 9.5-point favorites. And I just got obliterated by these two about being that Monday morning quarterback. And I was like, I was actually just kind of trying to say I felt your pain with the Packers. This team has just been atrocious, but it is fun to talk about gambling every single day with some of your best friends. So now I'm gonna have to start bothering Pam a little bit more for those money line sprinkles, like plus 375 on the Washington Commanders.
And no one believed it. And I was like, today is the day where the undefeated team is going to be defeated. And they're like, no, you're dumb. That's such a good. I had somebody say like, that is the worst take. And I'm like,
of course, because it seems like the worst take until it's not. But we're also talking about divisional teams here that hate each other and how hard it is in the NFL to beat a team twice. I mean, there's so many of those old gambling adages, but they're around for a reason, and it's because they're true.
So then that, I love that you're saying that because that kind of coincides with some of the games that are happening this week. So let's go ahead and get into it. So just a reminder of what it is that we are doing each week. We're making 5 against the spread contest picks in the NFL. Automatically in is Kelly's best bet. Automatically in is my best bet. And then together we are coming up with the other 3. Kelly, your best bet, I do agree with, but I do have only one concern because of the line move. But let me talk to me about why you love the Colts against the Eagles.
Yeah, the line move I think is pretty indicative of moving it to a key number. Pam, moving it to a 7 off a 6.5, I don't think is super detrimental. I understand why everybody is willing to back that same said team we were just talking about in a bounce back spot, but they have to bounce back on the road. So I'm going to take the 7 here with the Indianapolis Colts. I know it sounds a little crazy, but Matt Ryan should have never been benched. Bottom line, I really do think Jim Irsay really wanted to get rid of Frank Wright. And so by him forcing him to play your guy, Sam Ellinger, for a couple of games, that gave him his out. Now, all of a sudden, we have Jeff Saturday, who was literally sitting on his couch. We kind of have seen now that maybe you don't need that head coaching experience, right? Because if you've got the coordinators in play and you've got a pinnacle, right? It's kind of like if you look at politics, if you will, right? The president is the figurehead. Well, the head coach is the figurehead, but there's all of these people around them that make everything work together or not. And I do think that that's what we saw here with the Indianapolis Colts headed against the Raiders. Now, granted, the Raiders defense, absolutely atrocious, but man, Matt Ryan made me feel really good about how fast I can run last week. But I do expect to see this team be able to get the best of the Eagles, at least against the spread. You got a short week, traveling after a divisional game on Monday. I think this is like one of those easy setup spots here for the Colts. 1-6 against the spread as road chalk of 6 or more for this Philadelphia Eagles team. If you remember, I bet against the Eagles as my best bet. I think it was week 3 when they played the Cardinals. Same kind of scenario here, Pam, where this team is good, and I'm not ready to give them Lombardi just yet, but I do think that they're going to make it deep into the playoffs. But this is kind of one of those bumps in the road that we see teams take from time to time, and this is just too many points.
Right. So, of course, this is automatically in, but I do want to bring up a couple of points. I love how you said that Frank Reich, he's out. In comes Jeff Saturday. He's a former offensive lineman who talks about running the ball. Swaps back in Matt Ryan, runs the hell out of running back Jonathan Taylor, who had his first 100-yard rushing game since week 1. Go figure. Your best running back has a 100-yard rushing game.
Why aren't we running him?
Why aren't we running him? And the Eagles in back-to-back games now have allowed Houston running back Dameon Pierce 139 rushing yards, allowed Washington running backs 152 rushing yards combined. My one concern is that the line is actually not 7 for the contest, it's 6.5. Does that make a difference?
That's frustrating. And I always forget that I open up the contest lines and then I've already got it written down because I am in several different contests. And you're right. That is kind of one of those caveats of it not being 7. I personally already bet this one at 6.5. Okay. So I have a 6.5 in pocket. So yes, Great. The 6.5 to 7 matter. Of course it does. And I don't want to say it doesn't. But at this point in time, I was already pot committed at 6.5. I wish we had the 7 in the contest, but this looks like a field goal type game to me. And I hope that that's how it ends one way or another.
Okay. So then I love it. We have the Colts plus 6.5 then at home to the Eagles. For my best bet, I'm going with the Chargers plus 5.5 at home to the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're dead last in the league for passing touchdowns allowed. And you're talking about Justin Herbert. They're not getting all of the attention because they have been one of the more underwhelming teams of the season because preseason, all of us, the whole entire world had projected that Justin Herbert, Super Bowl and the Chargers, this is the best team and yada, yada, yada. And then look what's happened. They've kind of, I wouldn't say they've fallen flat on their faces, but they definitely have been underperformers this year, but it's also because of injury has largely come into play with this team. Justin Herbert is top 10 in passing touchdowns without having his star wide receivers in action. Both practicing this week, you have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. There's no guarantee that they're going to play, but fantasy projections are up. Both players are questionable. They're limited on Thursday. If we can even get one of those players back, that's going to be such a huge help for Herbert because he has only had the entire season. Here we are. It's week 11. He's had only 10 total dropbacks this entire season with Keenan Allen, Williams, and running back Austin Eckler on the field. So between the three, you've got target depth, you've got speed, you've got a run game. If he can have even two of these three players, that's going to be huge for this LA offense, who is 4-1 against the spread against the Chiefs. They may suck against everybody else and they may be struggling, but they show up just like everybody else does against the Chiefs. Justin Herbert, in his rookie season, remember, he defeated the Chiefs. He has been competitive season after season against Kansas City. The Chargers, 2-0 against the spread as underdogs this year. I not only love Chargers at +5.5, I love them on the money line. Especially if either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams or both of them are in, I am fucking hammering this money line because the Kansas City defense is complete garbage against the pass. And now you're going up against Justin Herbert, who does nothing but pass. They find ways to lose, but this is why you don't ever take Herbert and the Chargers as favorites. You always back them as underdogs. What do you think
Yeah,
about
I'm
that?
with you. A good friend of mine put me onto this plane and goes, I can't believe you're not on the Chargers. And I said, well, there was just a lot of question marks surrounding this team. But as the weeks come on, we're starting to hear, okay, these are the guys that are practicing. Here's what we're hearing. And that was kind of what happened with the Chargers against the Niners. The Chargers went out there and punched them in the mouth early. And it was almost like they just ran out of players that were healthy enough to finish the game. And that was the unfortunate part there. But I'm with you. The Chiefs have had a tough go lately, Pam, and that's what I'm looking to bet against here. They have had 2 overtime wins, a 3-point win, and 2 outright losses, 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games. It has been tough for this team. They have had it's just not been the Chiefs of old. And they weren't last year either. They have covered more this year than they did previously, but I know that everybody's going to say, oh, he doesn't miss Tyreek Hill. I'm sorry. Tyreek Hill is having a hell of a year. And I know this because he's on my fantasy team and has been my basically sole reason for winning games. Yeah. I do think that this offense has faltered at times. We've seen some of these better defenses be able to show up. Brandon Staley infuriates me. He is Anthony Lynn 2.0. And that's the only reason why I'm not standing here on this table in this hotel room with you on the money line, chanting money line. I didn't say I'm not going to bet the money line, but I don't love it as much because I've seen this man do bonehead things repeatedly, and I cannot trust him all the time versus Andy Reid, who is going to give Patrick the opportunity to go out there and win the game. And that's why we saw them do it twice in overtime.
And while the Chargers are potentially getting players back, you have Kansas City Chiefs. You're talking about that they're missing Tyreek Hill. They definitely are. He's missing that deep threat player. And yes, he has these other quarterbacks, these other wide receivers that are kind of trying to fill in the role, but he is playing more of that boring football where it's like these short down the middle passes instead of looking for that deep threat. And now you have Juju Smith-Schuster, who is in concussion protocol. He didn't even practice on Thursday. So that's another playmaker, one down that he's going to not have. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he also returned limited on Thursday. He's questionable. So while his wide receivers are banged up, Chargers are getting some playmakers back. So then those are 2 games that are automatically in. We have Colts +6.5 versus the Eagles, and we have Chargers +5.5 to the Chiefs. Now, there was one of them that you send me. You send me your list every week. We agreed on everything except for one. And I am so surprised, Kelly, that you were on the opposite end for me. Vikings. You sent me your list and it said Cowboys. And I'm like, what am I missing? You're Vikings best cheerleader. I don't know what happened.
No, I definitely am. Listen, the Vikings have been great to me. Hopefully they can, after the Packers lost last night, pretty much clinch the NFC North here in the next couple of weeks. And that's going to be great. I've been really happy with McConnell. I've been really happy with Kirk Cousins. I've been very happy with Justin Jefferson and several of those playmakers on defense. This is the game I added because I wanted to see what you had to say. Remember last week I said we talked about the Browns game and you and I talked each other into the Dolphins. That's basically what I'm doing here. Everybody loves the Cowboys -1. Everybody loves the Cowboys -1.5. Everybody's betting the Cowboys on the money line. Cowboys aren't going to lose 2 games in a row this weekend. So I had to put it on there just to see if you like the Vikings. That's how we were going to pivot once again, because it worked out so well for us last week.
You were testing me.
Not even I was testing you. I'm also testing myself because sometimes, Pam, I always say that I don't pay attention to talking heads, right? Like you'll never catch me with NBC, CBS, ESPN on my television listening to the day-to-day stuff because I've realized that sometimes somebody will say something and it sparks some interest in my brain. And the next thing I know, I talk myself out of a play with some guy that doesn't know anything more than I know. And that kind of is my job, right? Like I host some videos at Wager Talk. I do a ton of stuff with those guys. I do all the stuff at Barstool. And sometimes I catch myself not fading myself, not betting against myself, but second guessing my pick because I do have such immense respect for some of the guys that I work with. And so I had Dallas written down early in the week. And so I just sent you the same list that I had already had. And I was like, all right, let's see what Pam says. So when we pop on, you're like, I can't believe you like Dallas. I'm like, wow, it's kind of like the Browns last week. Everything those guys are saying, the Browns made sense. Everything lined up. Everything they're saying with Dallas Cowboys lines up. Back-to-back road games for the Cowboys. I'm not buying it. I think we've
like
seen
it purely
this
comes down to the biggest question is this is a trap. Immediately, the very first thing that I heard when people were talking about this game is this is a trap game because it's so easy to take the Vikings. Give me the Cowboys. Okay,
Yep.
first off, I don't believe in trap games. I genuinely don't. But even still, if it was, I don't think this is a trap. I really just think that this really is two evenly matched teams. The more so, and the Vikings, people are going to look at them, and they were down by 14 last week to the Bills, and then the Vikings in one score games last year, they're in one score games again this year. What's going on? For me, the biggest difference from 2021 versus 2022 is head coaching. You had Mike Zimmer. I hated Mike Zimmer. He was a defensive coach, and he played. If you ever had the Vikings as a favorite, fucking cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross everything, because they are not playing to win games. They were playing to not lose. Kevin O'Connell is an entirely different coach. He is finding ways to win. They may get in trouble early, but he is then clawing this team back into offense. And Kirk Cousins, he's actually fine. It's actually happened.
I told everybody that Kirk was fine years ago. I'm like, I don't think it's Kirk. I don't think Kirk is this big problem, but
it's almost as if once Kirk Cousins throws that interception, like fire on the Vikings in every which way, because that's almost like, great, we got that out of the way. And then now let's just like catapult ourselves to the win.
That's hilarious that you said that, because when I was at the sports book in Detroit with all these Lions fans and I laid it with the Vikings and I was kicking myself, my boss, Johnny, said, hey, let's go. How much cash you got? Let's go. We're going to go live bet the Vikings. And I go, what? And he goes, Kirk just threw an interception. Vikings, he went through this exact same scenario. And it's funny you say that, because guess what? They ended up beating the Lions. He's like, Kelly, I've seen this Lions team enough to know they're not going to win this game. Yes, all the momentum is shifting their way. He goes, right now we can go get Vikings minus 120. And I was like, all right, fine. I can't believe I'm doing this. Is not in my my betting strategy ever. No, not a single issue after we made that bet. I think it was like mid third quarter. And that's exactly what this team does. You nailed it. As an underdog, completely different scenario. But that's what we saw the shift last week. This was actually, it's very rare that I get to sit there and watch one game. Usually I've got TVs going on. I've got iPads. I've got texting. I've got score apps. And because I was on a plane for this one, and that's what was being shown on the TV, I was sitting next to a Bills guy and he was getting pissed. And I was trying not to I didn't have any money on the game, but I was like, I need this Vikings win for over 9.5 wins, but also what are the Bills doing? Right. Josh Allen fumble. And that's what this Vikings defense has done. They've capitalized really well on turnovers this year. And I've been really impressed with what I've seen out of Minneapolis so far.
And it's not even just that. You're talking about Dallas. And what was the one thing that we talked about a few weeks ago when it was Dak Prescott coming back into the mix? I was really worried and hesitant that the play calling situation was going to change. And it has. They've moved away from the conservative to let's bomb downfield attempts. You have to kind of stick with that short, boring football that I'm talking about with Mahomes, because Dak Prescott isn't that deep threat quarterback that can handle it consistently.
Well, and I'm guessing Kellen Moore is getting orders from the booth or from Jerry or from Mike McCarthy because he's not Cooper. Dak isn't Cooper Rush. We know that, right? But you nailed it. The reason why Cooper Rush was so successful, if you will, is because they limited him from making those mistakes. Yeah. And they don't do that with Dak. They just let the leash off and the dog runs, and what happens, we're going to find out. Either he's going to, throw for 250 plus yards and 3 touchdown passes, or there's going to be some mistakes made. And that's basically what we saw in Green Bay last week. And Green Bay was a nauseating pick. Don't get me wrong. I was disgusted after that turnover and they went down 2 scores. And I was like, all right, I'm turning this shit off. I'm done. I'm done with this Packers team completely. And now here we are.
Well, then just to throw out, that was like a bunch of talking head stuff that we just went through. So let me go ahead and give some like stats that are going to help. The number one reason why I like to fade the Cowboys on the road is because they are the third most penalized team on the road this season. And that type of lack of focus is going to come into play when you're playing against the Vikings offense that is second best in the league for fourth quarter points scored. We have seen them time and time again make these comeback situations. Either the offense is clicking, the better play calling situation. They have just been better in pressure spot situations. Whereas as the game progresses, the Cowboys just get more sloppy. And it came into fruition last week against the Packers on the road. They had 9 penalties on the road last week for 83 yards. You don't think any of that affected the Cowboys able to come back? Defensive passing calls, holding calls, all of that comes into play when you're playing against Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, who can go for a 70-yard bomber. Okay, there you go. An easy 7 points because you just did a pass interference.
Well, there's that. And then also you have Mike McCarthy just doing some really weird things. I am the first to scream kicking is for losers, but Mike McCarthy, if you want to seal the deal, you kick the field goal there. I didn't understand that one at all. I was very glad he did it, but I didn't understand it.
So here's what I feel like we can envision in this game happening every Monday. It's Friday right now. Sunday afternoon, Monday morning. This is what all the talking heads are going to say. Dallas should have won that game, but because of all the mistakes that were made by penalties, the Vikings found a way. Mark my words, that is the outcome. So it seems like we just spent an hour talking about the Vikings. Are we putting the Vikings on the card?
Yeah, absolutely.
Duh. I know. How do we? I think I'm telling you, like, I love a lot of games this week.
Do you really? The list I sent you, I've only played the first 2, which was Colts and Chargers.
I'm in Vegas and I am ready to like.
Yeah, I'm in a Barstool state now, so I deposited some money in my app. I'm gonna be really honest with you. Sunday, there's probably gonna be more than just those 2 bets. Sometimes when you get a little trigger happy and you've got a little extra jingle in your account, you're feeling good, it can happen. So I'm with you. Being in Vegas, I'm sure you're gonna walk
This
up to the
week
window a
may
few
be
more
the
times
first time that I ever post a bet slip because, like, fuckers, you don't think that I actually bet?
Well,
I'm in Vegas and I'm betting.
Listen, you live in Texas. It's not legal to bet in Texas. And here we are having the debate whether I'm in Florida, whether I'm in Las Vegas. It doesn't matter, Pam. I don't have a Barstool Sportsbook there, so thus I can't post tickets. What a concept, I know.
Exactly. Anyway, here's another game that you and I were both in agreement with. I feel like we should talk about games that aren't on your list, or should we just run through your list?
No, we can go whichever way you want. Listen, right now we've got 3 locked in. I'm willing. These last couple ones that I sent you aren't anything that I love, right? Okay. And I know that a couple weeks ago I only sent you 3, and you're like, you only sent me 3. So I added a couple of extras this week to kind of.
Well, let's talk about one that we're in agreement with, and I'm surprised also. Like, you sent me your list, and my response was Jets eyeball emoji, because I'm like, holy shit, I loved the Jets this week, and I cannot believe that I am saying that. I will not bet the Jets. I will not bet the Jets. They came through for me on a teaser, so I said I will not bet the Jets unless they are in a teaser. But my God, This week I love the Jets. I think, this is my opinion, that the Jets are playing more consistent football right now, and that like nauseates me to say. But both the Jets and the Patriots, they're top 15 in total defense. So the key in this game is going to be who is going to limit the turnovers. And normally that is where I step in and say, you fade Zach Wilson. You take his player props that he's going to throw an interception, that he's going to throw under passing. It's a young quarterback against Bill Belichick. But they just faced 2 weeks ago. And they lost by 4 points, having thrown multiple interceptions.
Yeah, that was such a weird game, right?
Mac Jones is awful right now. He has been sacked 10 times in his last 2 games. He is throwing 5.2 average, and he was just benched a couple weeks ago for Bailey Zappi. Where is his mindset right now? The Jets 4-0 against the spread on the road so far this season, allowing a league low of 27% passing plays to be converted to a first down or a touchdown. This defense is fucking legit. In the last 5 games, the Jets have held opponents to 17 points or less in 4, including a 20-17 win over the Bills. What is impressive to me about this, we knew that the Jets defense was good, and progressively they're getting better through each game. But what was impressive to me about that matchup was Zach Wilson. I don't need him to be a stud in this game. I need him to have 0 turnovers. We know how good of a defense Bills have, and he had 0 turnovers. Do that exact same style of play against the Patriots, you're going to run all over them.
Yeah, I agree. And not only are they 4-0 against the spread, Pam, on the road, they're 4-0 against the, like straight up. They're winning road games, and that's what we need here with this 3 in the hook in the contest. I'm with you. I looked at this game and I said, oh my God, am I going to get to the window with the Jets? Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I'm definitely going to be playing them in contests. I do think that this New England defense is the real deal. I got to see them in person. But on the flip side, this New England offense is so bad. It is so bad. And I actually hope it is Mac Jones, not Bailey Zappi. I do think that that Bill Belichick is going to stick with the Mac game plan for now, just because he does fit the system better, even though you'd be surprised how many Bailey Zappi chants I was hearing that day. And it's tough. It's a tough defense. But as you mentioned, yes, he did have those 3 interception implosion in the second half, if you will, versus this New England team. But outside of that, he had 355 yards and 2 touchdowns against the same defense that I'm talking about how great they are. I do think that the Jets go into Gillette and get the win.
And you can talk about that the Patriots have a good defense. The Jets, statistically, in almost every defensive metric, has a better defense than the Patriots right now. So not only do you have a more stable quarterback at the moment for the last like 3 game sample size, yes, he's probably the more stable quarterback, but your defense has stepped up, forcing turnovers, limiting touchdowns, forcing field goals, getting the sacks. Yeah, I'm super fucking intrigued. And Jets, do you want to plug it in? Do you want to keep it yellow?
Yeah, no, we're plugging it in.
Okay. So then the 4th game, so then that's already 4 games. This is like super easy, and we agree, and we know how our life happens when we agree.
Well, listen, our life hasn't been great agreeing, but also how do I say this? There's going to be some ebbs and flows to it, right? Because sometimes when you work with somebody, especially in whether it's contest or day-to-day life, like if I came and worked with you at Yahoo, you get to understand the other person's betting style. And so sometimes that does come into play here, but we're going to match up on some of these, bottom line, because you and I both like underdogs. We're both looking for outright winners. So those are kind of a natural progression that I think would make the card regardless. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like very rarely is it like, nope, I hate that one. There's no way in hell we're putting that in here. It's just more of a, well, let me give you a couple caveats as to maybe why I don't like that side.
Right.
It's not like we just completely hate the other person's card. I mean, that's happened maybe once or twice, but.
So then let me go ahead and throw 3 games at you, and then you can decide which one you want to discuss. Steelers against the Bengals, Cardinals against the 49ers, Rams against the Saints.
Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to say this. I'd like to take the Saints game off for right now.
Okay.
And that is because I don't trust Dennis Allen.
No, yeah.
I am hearing mixed rumors. So I got a little blasted by some Saints fans the other day that said Jameis isn't healthy. And they sent a couple of links that says Jameis isn't healthy. But then everybody I'm talking to out of New Orleans is telling me Jameis is healthy. Yet Andy Dalton is still under center for this team. I think there's a divide, if you will, in New Orleans based on who they want to be their quarterback and who they want to be their team leader. And I don't like that, whether it's a college team or an NFL team or any kind of team, when there's a rift amongst the players, you're not going to come out and play well. And the Saints coming off that ugly loss that couldn't even cover the teaser. I tried to tease both sides of the Steelers game. I took Steelers plus 1.5 up to 7.5, and then moved the other way. And I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to tease the Saints. And that was one of my, my ugly losses on Sunday, because it was just almost not, it should just have never have happened. There was just a lot of really bad play calling, and this offense should be so much better. So I'd like to cancel them off.
So then wouldn't that work in favor of the Rams, because they're getting Matthew Stafford back, who's been, less than productive. And yes, you won't have Cooper Kupp, but it's the defense. The Rams still have a top 5 defense. You still have Aaron Donald. He's still wrecking quarterbacks. You can't run against the Rams. And now think Aaron Donald against Andy Dalton, who's had 6 interceptions in his last 4 games.
I'm trying to look. I got the odds screen open. I want to see. In the contest, is the line 3?
4.5.
4.5. Rams plus 4.5.
And because the line for the
Wow.
contest came out before Stafford news that he was
Yep.
coming back in.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I wanted to see. So this one opened New Orleans pick'em, got bet up to 3, then went to 4.5, is now back down to 3 because of the Stafford news. So I do think we're also getting a 1.5 of
Yeah.
value there as
Exactly.
well.
So your
Yeah.
storyline complements that I was on the Rams, regardless of whether they have Cooper Cup or not, because it is just it's a defense. It's a defense move.
It is.
It's going to be defense versus defense. You have shit team versus shit team. The Rams are 2-6-1 against the spread. The Saints are 3-7 against the spread. So when you have bad versus bad, I trust Aaron Donald and the Rams defense more than I trust Andy Dalton in anything. So that can be an option. We can
Rams just 3-7 straight up, 2-6-1 against the spread. Last place in the NFC West. That's pretty gross, but I don't know if that's a Super Bowl hangover. If Matthew Stafford, I mean, we heard a lot about his elbow to start the year. Obviously, traded away Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Ramsey is going to make this a fun game, right? And then when we've seen it before, where there's going to be a lot of punts and a lot of ugliness, this could easily be like a 17-14 final, Pam.
We can pencil that in and discuss one of the other games. You also did, so the other options were the Bengals against the Steelers and then the 49ers against the Cardinals, which is Monday in Mexico City. Do either of those games intrigue you?
So the only reason why I like the Cardinals, I'm going to steal this from my good buddy Mark Lawrence. He puts out a weekly newsletter, Pam, and I read it like it's the freaking Bible because he has such like really good tidbits that I could never find anywhere else. So I'm going to read this verbatim so I don't screw it up. Arizona's Cliff Kingsbury is the only coach in NFL history with a better outright record as a dog than as a favorite. 17-16-1 straight up taking points and 11-14 outright laying them. Is that not wild? That's wild.
Yeah.
And we know they're a better team on the road. This team is a neutral site game in Mexico City. I actually tried to somehow get on the list to be able to go to that game, and it didn't work out for me. Of course, with all the travel I've been doing, I'm like, hello, right here, go to Phoenix, straight to Mexico City. It would work out perfect. And they're like, no. Well, the tickets are outrageous. It's going to be a crazy game. If you've ever seen some of the games in Mexico City, they get absolutely wild. And I do think that it's going to be a good one because I do know that there are fans of both teams there. And I think we're going to see a really good game. But I think 8 points is a little egregious here.
So here's my thinking on this game. I love the Cardinals, and I do a show on Tuesdays, and they're talking my favorite teaser leg is taking the 49ers down to the 1.5. I'm like, you know what? And I said I would not do that because I know my Longhorn boys, and I know Colt McCoy, and he is a serviceable quarterback. I trust Colt. I am hoping that it is Colt McCoy instead of a Kyler Murray, but
I'm okay with that.
I know when to fade Ellinger, and I know when to play Colt. He has 4 touchdowns, 1 interception in his starts. He's and with a 6 average in his starts. The travel to Mexico City makes this an equalizer. And people just seem to always forget, like they're both on the West Coast. It's not that big of a travel. It is still a huge adjustment having to travel regardless. You're still flying. It's not one team that's flying, it's both teams flying. So who's going? So I want to throw that out the window of like, oh, well, such and such is closer. And who cares? You're both still traveling. You cannot run against Arizona. They still do have a good defense. I'm still skeptical on Jimmy G, and I know that they have the playmakers in Christian McCaffrey. I know that they have the better defense. This still is a divisional rivalry game. Wide receiver Marquise Brown, he's returning back from IR. He's expecting to be playing this week. I cannot find confirmation on whether he is indeed or not, but he is an additional playmaker for McCoy. Through 6 weeks, he had 485 yards, 3 scores. Having him on the field is huge, and I'm hoping that it is not Kyler because the Cardinals are now 3-1 with McCoy starting, including a 31-17 win last year against San Francisco.
Well, I will say this. Colt McCoy is 3-0 against the spread as an underdog for Arizona. Kyler Murray, 3-1-1 against the spread against the Niners. So, like, I don't think that there's a big deal there. The one caveat that scares me is no Zach Ertz. Obviously, he is out for the rest of the season. He got hurt, was it last week or the week before? So that kind of sucks. Other than that, I think this is a ton of points. This is a really ridiculous amount of points, and that's because no Kyler Murray, everybody overreacts. But Colt McCoy has been absolutely great as a quarterback. I should say a backup quarterback, if you will. I like the points here a lot, but I really hope you're wrong about the teaser because I did tease San Francisco as well. I teased them with the Raiders. Of course I did. Who wants to lay points with the Broncos? Give me over 7 in a rivalry game. So can we just how about this? We'll take the 8 and they can win by 2 or 3. Can we get a little middle ground here? Or are you sprinkling on the money line again?
I'll be honest, like I love Colt, and he has been what you see from Colt McCoy. He has not buckled under pressure like at all. When he plays out there, he looks confident. He looks like he knows what he's doing. The playmaking has been smart for him, just as they did for Cooper Rush. So they're not asking him to do a lot, and he is delivering on what he is able to do. So if it is Colt, I did sprinkle the money line. I will. If it is Colt, I will sprinkle the money line. In like what you just said about Kyler Murray, even if it is him, I didn't know that he was 3-0 against the spread against the
3-1-1. So yeah, against the Niners as of late. So that is that's just saying that if come Sunday, all of a sudden there's Kyler Murray trotting out, nobody panic.
Great. Do you want to go ahead and plug that one in then?
Yep. We both I literally laughed at my buddies. So we do, each of us pick 1 out of 5. And I logged into Slack this morning and somebody had already taken the Colts. Somebody had already taken the Cardinals. And I was like, come on, can you save some of the rest of it for the rest of us? And I reluctantly, the Chargers were already gone too. Don't you worry. It's like all the C's. And I'm like, you guys, there's no more C's.
You're going to be with the Jets.
That's what I gave.
You're gonna be with the Jets, and you're gonna hate your life so much on Sunday.
This is your punishment for taking all of the teams that I wanted to bet. You get the Jets.
You take the Jets. Well, then those are our 5. I love our card. I'm telling you, I love this week. I think there's a lot of strong. It's a bunch of how would I put it? It's a bunch of overvalue situations. Oh, the Niners look unstoppable. This is still a division game. The Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes. It is still Justin Herbert, who has played very well against them every week. It is the Cowboys. The Vikings are barely winning. They're still winning. I don't know. I feel like it's just a whole bunch of narrative driven stuff this week. And it's give me the stats to back it up. And if you don't have any, then what are you betting it on? Narrative.
What they're seeing. You have to remember, Pam, the general public remembers what they saw last week, and that's where they will go to the window this week. And that is exactly the opposite of what you want to do in the NFL.
Well, then those are our 5 against the spread picks. We have Kelly's best bet of Colts plus 6.5 to the Eagles. My best bet of the Chargers plus 5.5 to the Chiefs. We're both taking the Vikings plus 1.5 at home to the Cowboys. The Jets plus 3.5 at the Patriots.
Who would have thought we ever got to the window with the Jets after last season?
I love it though. That's the thing. We're both yes, the Jets. That's somebody screenshot this for us and play it for us on Sunday afternoon when they lose 30-5. Such a Jet score. Fuck our lives. We'll see what happens. And then the Colts plus 8 against the 49ers, which is on Monday in Mexico City. Those are our 5 against the spread picks for the NFL in week 11. You can follow Kelly Stewart on Twitter at KellyInVegas. You can follow me at Twitter at PamelaM35. And then do make sure to subscribe, and comment to tell us what you think of our card. And fingers crossed, that is all the good vibes. Kelly, my girl, have fun in Phoenix. I'm gonna have fun in Vegas.
Have a great time in Vegas. I'm sorry that I missed you. And well, I know I won't see you in Dallas in a couple weeks, but besides that, I may still go. So you may just have to drive up.
I'm still going. If it's K-State, I still believe that K-State is going to be in the Big 12 championship. And if they are there, I am going because I have a futures ticket on them to win. I would like to see that cash in person.
I didn't know if I could get a go Cats from you, but maybe in person, I'll bring you some extra purple.
All right. We'll see. Well, then hopefully I'll see you in Dallas soon. And then that does it for another episode of Stack of Stats. We'll see you next week.